We welcome now to the studio. It's Speaker Pro-Tem of the Mississippi House of Representatives, recently elected as such, Manley Barton. Thanks for coming on there, Mr. Speaker Pro-Tem.
Well, thank you.
Has a good ring to it.
Good. It does have a good ring. I'm getting used to it.
That's awesome. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. All right, so you guys have been meeting a little bit for the last couple of weeks, but we don't have committee assignments yet, and I know that takes a little while to sort through that. You got a big group, and you got lots of committees, and you got to get everybody placed in the right situation.
And it does take a little time. You've got 122 members, and you want them to end up or land in areas where they maybe even have some expertise, but certainly have some desire to serve, and trying to satisfy all that, and then determining who the chairman, vice chairman, and all of those committees are going to be. And so it just takes a little time to put it together. Yeah,
it does. But Representative Trey Lamar was on the program yesterday, and he indicated he felt like we'd see the official announcements perhaps tomorrow of committee chair and assignments.
Well, there's certainly some anticipation that it's going to be, this week. So, we'll know in the morning, for sure.
Okay.
But couldn't.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens then, and then I guess it's really start getting to work in earnest at that point. It's kind of limited on what you can do right now, right, until you get that sorted out.
Well, especially at the beginning of a new term. So, we're going to be 2 weeks into the session, and, wouldn't be a lot of bills to handle even next week.
Yeah.
But, the first thing you got to do is the committee chairman call meetings and what they call do the organization of the committee. Everybody get to meet everybody, the committee assistants, the lawyers who meet with the committees. They elect a secretary from the body, and that's all during that organizational meeting. But probably most of those will probably happen next week.
Okay.
The chairman will try to get everybody together, have that organizational meeting. And then when they do have some bills that they can do something with, when they actually meet, that part of it's behind them, and they can start moving forward and actually handling bills.
Yeah. You've also got several new folks, of course, where this is the first session of a brand new term, and so we've got lots of so-called freshmen that have entered the House of Representatives. And, I've chatted with some of them just down there at the Capitol, and right now they're just trying to soak it all in, I think.
We have 25 new. I think there's, if I remember right, 17 Republicans, 8 Democrats.
Okay.
Most of them have not been around the process, and I would say the vast majority of them have not been around the process.
Yeah.
Certainly, they come in with some sense of how they think it's going to be, and generally they may get some of it right. It just takes a little time to really understand the whole process.
Yeah.
And so, they need a little help along the way,
sure.
and certainly the senior members that's been there a while is always available to try to help them understand something. And so I always encourage the new ones. I said, look, even if you're not on a committee, just go sit in on some of the meetings and just see how the chairman handles bills and so forth. And I think that's a great way to start understanding, how the House operates.
Well, that's good advice. I mean, it can be a little overwhelming, especially when the pace starts to pick up, as you know.
And in the later part of the session, it picks up pretty good. It can get. I call it like the old Wild West at times. I mean, it's just everybody's running,
Yeah. Well, I caught some of Speaker of the House Jason White's address last week after having been sworn in, and then I caught yours as well, by the way. I want to compliment you on that. I thought it was excellent, and I know you put a lot of thought into that, and it showed. And it was it brought in kind of the personal aspect of thing of what it's like to work in that chamber with the other members and work together to get things done. So I just want to let you know that I was there and fortunate to be there.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I had kind of the basis of what I wanted to say, but then, you've given speeches, and sometimes a speech is more important than another speech, and
That's
I
right.
thought that one was important.
No doubt.
And I wanted to spend the time to make sure I got across what I wanted to say,
Yeah.
And I felt good about it. I felt good, and I've had a lot of compliments, and I appreciate
You
that.
should. And I thought, what I caught of the speaker, and of course I went back and read that and talked to other members, and he's got an ambitious agenda. That's it. I think that's what we could say, does he not?
I think so. There's been a number of issues through the years that's almost got to the finish line that didn't get there. I think he wants to go back and readdress some of those things and see if we can find a solution. There's solutions out there. We just got to get there.
Yeah.
We know we're still, in some cases, we're still identifying the problem.
Yeah. Sure.
And so and you gotta know what the problem is before you can solve it. And so some of that's going on. But he has set a very ambitious agenda, I think. And I believe at this point that the caucus is behind him. So we're going to see.
That's my sense too.
Yeah. I think so. And so I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be some work and it's going to be some challenges, and that's part of the process. You just get there and you try to work your way through it.
The comment I get probably more than any, Representative Barton, from just the public in general that have kind of observed Speaker of the House Jason White, and I guess they're contrasting that a little bit to former Speaker of the House Philip Gunn, is that Speaker White seems to be open to talking about anything, even issues with which he may not agree, even points of view with which he may not agree. He seems to really support the idea of open, civil, respectful, positive, productive discourse.
I think you're right on the money. I know the speaker well. He and I have been friends a long time. We've worked on a lot of stuff together. He is a person who is willing to sit down with anybody, listen to them, talk to them, hear their ideas, and I think he's going to be very successful because of that. I think he's willing to listen and he's willing to hear people out and hear their ideas. Yeah. And so I think he's gonna be real good.
He also encouraged, as you well know, the members to establish relationships with those on the other side of the aisle. To start having open and honest debate, and not just go to your corners and I feel this way, you feel that way, and we just can't reconcile that.
I thought about this morning, and I hesitated to sort of throw it out there. My grandson is from I have a grandson that lives in Fairhope. He actually is a senior in high school this year, coming back, paging for me in a week or so. But he and a friend of his paged for me last year, and the Fairhope newspaper heard about them, and so they asked him if they could interview him, and they agreed. And so the newspaper sent them a kind of a question, 4, 5, 6 questions, and said, answer these questions. Then what they wanted to interview him, and the very first question was, what was the thing that surprised you the most about being there? And both my grandson and his friend independently answered the question exactly the same way, different wording perhaps. The thing that surprised him the most was that the Republicans and Democrats all seemed to be friends.
Shocked at that, huh?
Well, yeah. And
shouldn't be that way.
Well, it shouldn't. They shouldn't have been shocked.
Yeah,
but they
right.
were because of what they see on the national news.
Yeah.
And
so much vitriol, so much hostility.
Yeah. And so, and I think our chamber has gotten along, even when we just have serious disagreements. I think at the end of the day, we are still friends. I think we still get along, and we try to work with each other when we can.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And that doesn't mean you have to compromise your principles whatsoever.
No, not at all. No, I have a friend used to say, look, I disagree with my wife half the time. So it's not unusual for you to have differences of opinion.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. So speaking of which, what are you thinking? What's kind of been on your mind is the issues, the matters, the legislation that you want to pursue and are prioritizing?
Well, certainly, if you go back to Speaker's speech last week, where he kind of laid out a number of things that we want to address, and certainly the 600-pound gorilla in the room is the state retirement system.
Which is what the title of my article was, of course.
So we're in the very, very, very early stages of trying to figure out where we end up. And identifying the problem, making everybody understand that there is a problem, is where we are right now.
Okay.
And so we're going to get to a solution, but that solution may be somewhat complex, but it's going to be down the road somewhere.
Okay.
Certainly within the next couple of months,
Yeah.
but it's just going to take a little while to get there.
Okay.
But I think it's something that's going to be right on top of the radar, and will be something we'll start working on very diligently, probably just within the next week or so.
I get that impression as well. We're going to continue our discussion with the Speaker Pro Tem Manley Barton after this break. Stay with us. We're in the Element Wealth Studios. Pardon me. We are visiting with Speaker Pro Tem of the Mississippi House of Representatives, Manley Barton. So I'm glad to hear, Representative Barton, that there's knowledge that we got to do something about PERS, and a lot of folks have read this little piece I did, and I think it's going to require a multifaceted approach, honestly, to address the funding challenges that the system has. I don't think there's just one silver bullet, as Rhino likes to say, panacea that says, oh, yeah, we just do that and we fixed it, we can go home. It's more complex than that, and I applaud you for recognizing that, and I believe the members will consider multiple different options.
Well, we're in the very early discussions about what to do.
Yeah.
And I think I want to kind of go back and emphasize, I guess the single greatest thing that we've got to make people understand is that there is a problem.
Yeah, that's right.
And doing nothing is not an option. There
just gets worse.
It's not going to get any better on its own. And we've got to address it, and it's time to do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So please continue. What else is kind of on your radar for legislative priorities in this session?
Well, we've done a number of things over the last 12 years that have to do with infrastructure.
Okay.
I think we'll continue looking at the infrastructure needs in the state. The gas tax has not changed, and so I think we have used some ideas to increase funding over in those areas. We did that through the lottery, creating the Emergency Road and Bridge Fund, and doing some other diversions on the use tax back to the cities and the counties to allow them to do some infrastructure with some of that money. And I think we're going to continue to look at those kind of things and try to be innovative in how we fund these projects across the state.
Okay.
We've got a really good transportation system. And we've just got to maintain it and expand it where we need to. And we do have some areas that where the traffic counts are up and people are moving into, and we need to do some things to help those areas. In terms of what I think will probably be part of the larger discussion this time is on the education side. Obviously the school choice issue is out there. That's going to be given a lot of discussion, and I don't know where we end up there. But as a part of that whole discussion will probably be some additional things, and the speaker spoke to this a week or so ago. As a part of that entire discussion, we've got accountability models, the funding formula. There's a number of other things that probably, if you're going to have the discussion, let's fix it all. And we've come very close a couple of times to getting somewhere with the funding formula. There's a couple of things that probably need to be adjusted. And I think we have a real opportunity this year to do that.
Okay.
And that's pretty aggressive. I think that's a big issue. And,
it is.
And so you got to get a lot of people on board. It's not simple math. It's a little complex.
It is.
And so you got to get everybody to understand what you want to do and what those changes mean and how they affect your school district, my school district, and the kids that go there.
Okay.
And certainly we need to look at the kids in failing school districts, and that's been part of the discussion from day one. And I think everybody wants to do something. We haven't done anything, and so I think it's time we take that step and we try to address the needs of those first, and then see where that takes us.
Okay. Certainly, it does appear, at least early on here, that Speaker of the House, Jason White, seems to be more open to exploring the possibility of expanding education freedom and education choice in the state. It always appeared to me, honestly, that Speaker of the House Philip Gunn was less cool to the idea. He just has different philosophy and different thoughts about that. And then I think over in the Senate, that's where you run into the biggest roadblocks against getting anything done meaningful on school choice.
Well, I'm not worried about that today.
Yeah, I understand.
What I hope and I believe if we can craft this properly and compromises. People hate that word, but that's just part of the process. And trying to get their ideas and our ideas and come to a place that we can all agree to. I'm confident today. I used the wrong word. I'm hopeful today that we will get there and find a place, find the sweet spot, so to speak.
Fair enough.
And part of that, is kind of going back to the general discussion when you start talking about the accountability models and all that. We've really spent a lot of money and a lot of time the last couple of years on the career and technical training, the vocational stuff, workforce development, and that is really not a very big part, if any part, of the accountability model. So, so the schools that are pursuing it, to some degree, are getting penalized for doing that. So there's some things there we've got to fix and change and help them. Industry is good with this. They love it. They want us to do this. And I think we've got a good start. We've done some really good things over the last couple of years. And including those teachers and those training and those philosophies within the accountability model, I think is important. But that would all be part of this broader discussion.
So I think the takeaway here that I'm hearing from you is that the plan to, I guess, just deal with education, address it, which is roughly half of our general fund spending, public education. The scope of that is way beyond just education choice. You want to address the funding formula, the accountability, and some of the other issues that you're hearing about from constituents, from teachers, from educators. From a cross section. And
we may get part of that done.
Okay,
and that's okay. But I think while we're there and while we were discussing it, I think we have an opportunity to try to make some improvements in all of those areas while we're discussing it.
Sure. It's hard not to talk education policy when it's half of your budget.
That's right.
That's
true.
There's always something going on there. The governor made it pretty clear that full elimination of the income tax. He seems to continue to promote that as his top priority, something he'd at least like to get done. Your thoughts about that?
Well, I certainly think that there is an appetite to further make changes to the income tax rates. We a couple of years ago we cut about $550. At least that was the estimate, around $550 million, get us down to a 4% flat rate. Actually, 2 more years before we get there. So anything we might do now would be at the end of that cycle anyway. So I think we got plenty of time to discuss it. I think there probably will be another push this year to do something.
Okay.
But in addition to that, I know on the campaign trail this year, a little bit of talk about income tax, but a lot of talk about grocery tax. So that seems to be a very popular idea.
Okay.
And I guess the one thing that I would say is, and this is certainly to the municipalities, if the legislature did pursue something on the grocery tax side, that's a big income producer for especially for small cities. And but it would be the goal, if we did that, it would be the goal to make those cities whole.
So from the state.
So the state would take the hit.
Okay.
And we have a general idea of what that hit would be. There's been some numbers thrown around the last couple of years, and so I think that probably will be discussed. And I couldn't say today if we'd go the income tax route or the grocery tax route, but I doubt if we do both of them in 1 year.
I'm not sure it's possible, financially speaking.
Well, I think caution is good, you know, and we just don't want to get too far down the road and find ourselves in some kind of financial.
What about the ballot measure process? What do you think about that?
I'm being honest. I think we fixed that. I'm encouraged by what I hear. I know a lot of the legislators have heard from their constituents, and the biggest difference in the House and the Senate the last couple of years has just been the number of signatures.
Yeah.
And I think there's a compromise there someplace.
Okay.
And I've said before, wherever we land, the ballot initiative needs to be hard, but it doesn't need to be impossible.
Okay.
And, it doesn't need to be easy. And, if it was easy, you'd have 25, 30 things on the ballot every 4 years or maybe every year.
Yeah.
And so there needs to be a little bit of a hoop to jump through to get it, but it doesn't need to be impossible. And so
appreciate you coming on, Speaker Pro Tem Manley Barton has been our guest. Appreciate you coming on, sir, and I'm sure I'll see you some more at the Capitol, and especially appreciate you sharing your thoughts on all these critical issues to the state of Mississippi. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
We're coming right back, folks, in the Element Well studio.